For 2 weeks, in the early summer of every year, the sporting world turns its attention to Paris, France, and a few clay tennis courts where the best on the planet compete to win the French Open Championship, one of the 4 annual Grand Slam tennis tournaments. And those hallowed courts of red clay that few get to tread sit within the famous Roland Garros stadium. But have you ever stopped to wonder who the deuce was Roland Garros? See what I did there? And how come this world-famous sporting cathedral bears his name? Be prepared to be surprised as we dive into a tale of adventure, ingenuity, machine guns and tennis rackets. I'm Steve, he's Neil, and this is...
Honourable Mentions.
Honourable Mentions.
Hello, listener. How are you? I hope you are bright and sprightly on this day, because we are going to serve to you a rather magnificent episode. So let's welcome him in, shall we? Let's see if we can catch him in our net. There's lots of clues coming out here, listener. Hello, Neil.
Bonjour, Stephen.
Oh, he's talking French, listener. Have you ever heard of tennis?
In the elbow, yes.
Oh, yes, I never considered that. Tennis elbow, of course. That isn't a fiction. What else do you know about tennis, please?
I don't know where the word tennis comes from, but I know that you get it in your elbow.
Well, Neil, although for the listener, I have to stress that we do these episodes of Honourable Mentions. You may have heard them before. And I will present a story and tell a story that Neil, hello, Neil.
Hello.
Neil does have no idea until I do the intro of what we're going to be talking about today. And he's rather nicely set up something for us there without knowing that he did it. Because I've got a question for you, Neil. A bit of a sports quiz. I know you are a keen sportsman.
I don't know much about the sport. I think the sport is something to do with a ball and some stringed bats.
It is to do with a ball and some stringed bats, and we will explore it. Because let me tell you something.
Okay.
Thank you for your permission. Are you ready to be amused and have your tennis strings tickled rather amusingly?
If you want to tickle my strings, you can do.
Because, Neil, right, yeah, the name tennis...
Yeah.
actually comes from a case of hearing something in a foreign language and turning it into a completely new word.
Well, what you mean, saying it in a foreign language and changing it to an English word to make it sense.
Told you it was amusing.
It is amusing. Amuse-bouche, if you will.
An amuse-bouche. During the Middle Ages...
Is that like between when you're 30 to 50, that sort of thing?
No, because I'd argue you're still fairly young at the age 30. Is it sort of late 30s to 50s, early 50s?
40 to 60s and something like that nowadays.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? But anyway, We're not talking that at all. We're talking over time. So we're talking the 12th and the 13th of your centuries.
Ooh, bit of a distance then.
11 and 1200s. The game of tennis was invented in...
England.
No.
Belgium.
No.
Greece.
No.
China.
No. I think you know where, Neil.
France.
France. It was invented in France. You were just toying with this there.
Yep.
But of course, because it was invented in France, it had the real downside of being invented by Frenchmen. Who made
French.
Yeah, they made a complete and utter hash of it. Because
I think they slipped on snails and garlic remnants.
Do you know what, Neil? They played indoors. And without equipment, the players hit the ball with the palms of their hands. The French called it jeu de paume, or jeu de palme, however you would say that, which means game of the palm.
Now that sounds a bit like a euphemism for a men pleasuring oneself.
It sounds like pure filth, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Pure.
I'm just off upstairs, the game of the palm.
Yes. Yeah. You've been in there for ages. What are you doing? Not coming in on playing the game of the palm. Get out soon. Got any more tissues? Anyway, by the way, when a player was about to serve their ball to the opponent,
Yeah.
etiquette required that they shout a warning in case the other chap was occupied trying to twist a seemingly never-ending string of camembert while maintaining his dignity, which is a problem all Frenchmen
look
have.
out. Heads up.
Yeah, well, kind of, but not quite now. Because what they'd shout was tenez.
Tenez.
Tenez or Z.
Tenez.
Tenez, which meant take this, receive or play.
Yeah, so he's obviously played the game of the palm and then wants his person to receive it.
So when English speakers watched the French aristocrats and monks slapping their bones about, bloody French, they kept hearing the word tenez shouted at the start of every single point. And because the word was repeated constantly, they assumed it was the name of the sport itself. Such as someone may stumble across a game of golf and assume to themselves the name for golf was four.
I think that's because one of the blokes bent over and everyone went, "Whoa."
Is that right? Because it's like, right, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, now, by the time it was absorbed into English around the year 1400, tenez had morphed phonetically into its correct pronunciation and God-given pronunciation of tennis.
Tennis.
So we then had to send it back to France. We sorted it out for them, cleaned it up, got rid of the filth, give it its proper name, and sent it back over there. Originally, games were played up to 60 points. To keep track of the score on the court, people used a clock face.
A clock face?
The clock face, well done for repeating that. On the first point, the hand was moved a quarter turn to which position, please?
Clockwise.
That's the direction. The hand was moved a quarter turn to...
quarter of the 15.
15. On the second point, the hand moved another quarter of a turn until it was pointing at the...
Is that in the same direction?
Yes.
Oh, so that'd be 30 then, won't it?
30 then, won't it? And then on the third point being scored, the hand was moved to...
Well, on assumptions of the sums, I would say it'd be 45.
45.
45.
45. So why do we say 40 instead, please, Neil?
Because we're awkward.
Yes. It's because historical records show that for centuries, players actually did say 45, which is
45.
Croissant. Croissant, is that French? I don't know, my French is appalling.
Yes, it is. Croissant.
Croissant, which is French for 45. Over time, that was shortened simply because no one could be bothered. It was easier to shout out and faster to shout out just saying quarante, which means 40.
It was laziness.
It was laziness.
In darts. If someone scored 45 in darts, they won't go, I can't bother anymore. Just say 40.
It was faster and easier just to shout out quarante, which means 40, than it was to shout out the multi-syllabled croissant. So people just reduced it to 45. So you're right, Neil, it was just pure laziness.
Laziness.
They didn't build an empire on laziness. I wonder we had one and the French didn't. If the score is tied at 40-40, a player needs to win by 2 clear points. You'd agree with that? To keep the game within the 60-point hour structure,
Yes.
the clock hand would move to 50 on the first point, which we now call advantage, and then to 60, which would win you the game, on the second consecutive point. If the point was lost, then the hand moved back down to 40, and you started again until someone had gone 50-60. Do de jeu, or do, I don't know, my French is appalling. So it's da de jeu, Let's go with that. Let's go with da de jeu. Means 2 points to go, and that's where our phrase deuce comes from in tennis.
So where does love come from, Stephen?
Well, first of all, a mummy and a daddy meet each other and love each other very much, Neil.
Yeah, love comes from the heart. I know that. But where's the score love come from? Does it come from, does they play self-love, where the name of the tennis has come from?
Oh, you're thinking of the joie de palm.
Yeah, playing with your palm, what it is, or a happy palm, or,
slapping your balls about with your palm.
Slapping your balls about with your own palm. Does that come from there? Because you're loving, you're giving yourself a bit of self-love. Is that where love comes from?
Good theory, but no. So, rubbish theory. I believe it comes from the shape of an egg being similar to the shape of a zero. And your egg in France, or in French, is l'œuf, which sounds like love, and it comes from there.
That's ridiculous.
But I don't care. I didn't name.
Apples look like a zero. Oranges look like a zero. A lot of things in life look like a zero.
Why don't you build yourself a time machine, go back and complain? Because I didn't invent the scoring rules of tennis.
I will do. I'll just take a hula hoop back there and say, look, there's it. There's look like a zero. Why don't you put that on there?
Potato-based snack or the plastic game hoop?
The potato-based snack, because then if I get hungry, I'll have some to eat if I get lost.
Yeah, and you can bring those forward by centuries.
Exactly.
Change the world.
I think where we could be now.
Another theory about the scoring was about positioning on the court. So in your early French courts, when they were still slapping their balls about, the server would win a point and physically move forward by 15 feet. If he then scored another point, he moved forward another 15 feet. And 15 plus 15 equals?
2 points.
Mathematically, 30. And then if they scored another point, a third point, if you will, they were too close to the net, so they could only move forward another 10 feet, which brings them to...
Close to the net.
Yes, it brings them closer to the net. But how many feet, Neil, please?
Oh, I don't know, 30, or 40.
40 feet. And then they couldn't go any closer to the net, so once they won the next point after that, they'd won the game. But whatever the truth, today, tennis is one of the biggest sports on the planet, largely defined by its 4 annual Grand Slam tournaments, which, listener, Neil is going to list for us now. Please go.
Yes, well, I didn't mention this place because you'll go, oh, I've been there, but I'm sure it'd be Australia.
Australia is correct.
Because I've heard of a lot of open Australians. There'll be one in France, obviously, because you're talking about this chap's stadium. So in France.
That's correct.
There's one in London, which is Wimbledon, which is all on grass. And I do watch that sometimes in the summer. And how many left is there, please? One more. It's got to be, well, it has to be in, America, US of A.
US of
baby,
States.
USA.
Yeah, USA. Took a while to get going in the USA because every time someone served, someone in the audience would shoot the ball.
Woo, yeah, woo!
And they're also upset that the American Open was just the American Open and they could call it the World Champions. So, Neil, you mentioned...
Yes.
You mentioned there, I believe, the French Open Tennis Championship, which is played every year at Roland Garros, which is a stadium in Paris.
Right, yeah.
But who was Roland Garros, please, and why was the stadium named after him?
What do I know about Roland Garros? Absolutely nothing. And why was the stadium named after him? Because he financed it.
Well, correct in the first answer, and wrong in the second answer.
Was he part of the Thunderbirds undercover system?
Tuss.
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Don't have French people in Thunderbirds. it was the French person in Thunderbirds. You didn't have French people.
They're all over the world.
You
How do you think the
madman.
Thunderbirds knew about things? Just grow up a bit and just realise, see the big picture.
Anyway, Neil, you may be surprised to know that Roland Garros was a real person and that he was a man.
Him from Iran?
No, he was a man, as in not a leader.
Oh, man. Okay, he's a man. Yeah.
He had a moustache.
A moustache?
Yeah.
Right.
You find out all sorts of facts here.
Yeah, don't you?
And he had a goldfish named Jonathan Gibbons.
He had a goldfish called Jonathan Gibbons.
There's an echo. Echo, echo, echo. Yes, he had a goldfish called Jonathan Gibbons.
And is that written down in the factual area, or is that written down in your head?
No, that's research. I've carried out plenty of research. I've traced the family tree of Jonathan Gibbons, the goldfish, and can confirm that he was in the presence of Roland Garros through much of his story.
So you have researched celebrity goldfish?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing else I'm going to say to that, really, is there?
No. But, Neil, I cry.
Why'd you cry, Bud?
Because neither Roland Garros or Jonathan Gibbons were tennis players. Neither did Roland Garros or Jonathan Gibbons have anything to do with tennis.
Right.
So why is the French national tennis stadium named after Roland Garros then, please, Neil?
Did he invent the ball?
No, that was Johnny Ball.
Was it?
Yeah.
Ah. Did he invent ice?
Why would it be important to have invented ice, please?
Because you put ice in your drinks. And they have a big pot of ice next to tennis players, don't they, which they have their bananas and juice and stuff in it.
I say, exclusively only tennis players consume ice. Yes,
yep.
You're correct. No, it's a good guess, Neil, but you're not right.
Okay.
Shall we move on and investigate?
If we have to.
Roland was born to Georges and Clara Garros, a couple of musicians, on the 6th of October, 1888.
1888!
In Saint-Denis de la Réunion.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's very well pronounced as well, Stephen. Well played.
I thought so. Better than my other stabs at French, which is a little island and a French colony just off Madagascar, which is just off the east coast of Africa, which is just off the Atlantic Ocean.
Well, I'd like to go to Madagascar and see talk to them animals.
Which animals? Oh, those animals.
In that documentary, yeah, it's on TV.
Okay. And when you get there, will you just be talking, or would you like to move it?
I'm not going to do the dancing, but I'd like to see that aeroplane they lived in and things like that. I'd like to see all that.
Would you?
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you ask our listener to start a
GoFundMe. GoFundMe. Yeah. GoFundMe. Get me to Madagascar so I can see the animals and talk to them.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'd like to talk to the giraffe.
Yeah. I think your reaction when you get there might be quite interesting.
Why?
I'm not going to say now because it'll upset you. You carry that dream. You go and achieve your dreams.
I will do. Thank you.
Going back to Roland and what most of us would call reality, he spent his early childhood in Saint-Denis de la Réunion.
Saint-Denis de la Réunion, yeah.
Until moving to Vietnam when he was aged 4 with his parents.
He was there, man.
He didn't just go on his own. He knows what it was like, man. Now, Vietnam at the time, of course, was called...
Vietnam?
No.
No. Vietnam 1.
Ooh. No, French Indochina.
Oh, that was going to be one of my guesses later on down the line, but yeah.
Once you got to Vietnam, 999,999.
Yeah, then I'd have gone somewhere else.
So, yes, it was called French Indochina. And they remained there until he was 12 and they relocated back to mainland Francais.
Oh, okay.
Where he probably caught a serious case of pneumonia and was sent to school in Cannes.
Because he got pneumonia?
That's hard, isn't it? Oh, no, don't make me go away. We're going to Cannes. Okay, Yeah,
You've got pneumonia. Bugger off to school in Cannes.
he was sent there to recover because it's notoriously warm, isn't it? So they thought the warm air would do his lungs good, you see.
Well, there's lots of films that go on there, isn't there?
Oh, yes, I don't think there were really around the year 1892 or whatever it was, 1890s.
No.
Actually, no, he was born in 1888, so do your maths, Stephen. So if he got to Cannes when he was 12 and he was born in 1888, we're talking, 1967? Something like that.
Yeah, so there would have been films.
You're right. Anyway, so there he was in Cannes, sent by the doctors, recovering in the heat and the sunshine from his pneumonia. And doctors recommended sports to rebuild his respiratory health. So like all Frenchmen, Neil.
Yeah.
He took up cycling.
Well, French, that's not really just taking up sport, is it? Because that's how they used to get around everywhere, wasn't it? With the onions around the neck and the black and white stripy jumpers.
And the beret.
Yeah, and the bread in the front basket.
In the wicker basket.
Yeah.
Doing what being a bit stereotypical.
That's just telling him to get on a bike and deliver things.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's like coming over here and seeing all the gentlemen walking around in their very expensive pressed pinstripe suits and bowler hats with an umbrella and a copy of the Times under their arm.
Yes, under their arm.
Yeah.
Hello!
That's how we dress. Hello there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're jolly old England. But anyway, there he was. Not at all stereotypical French. Absolute char.
Yeah.
So there he was. And he proved to be really rather jolly good at cycling now, winning an inter-school cycling championship. And then, Paddy Schaff, he only went and become French cycling champion in 1906. And on top of that, he did. And on top of that, he was also an outstanding footballer and player of your rugby union.
Oh, okay. Well, I can relate to him now then.
Eventually, Roland stopped all this gadding about and moved to Paris to finish his schooling, going on to graduate from the prestigious HEC in Paris, the business school, in 1908.
Oh, it's interesting.
Thank you.
It's 7:10.
Really, isn't it?
Yeah, I do that because you always take that joke. But when I do it, it's funny.
I reckon he did at business school.
Well, I think he did at business school. I think he learnt the art of origami.
That's a good guess. I'm going to say business.
Did he open up a crepe store?
That's a very good guess as well, because French, of course, are notorious for their pastries and their ballet. What he did, Neil, despite Georges and Clara pushing for him to pursue a career as a concert pianist, because that was something else he excelled at.
Yeah.
And of course, he famously attached a grand piano to the handlebars of his push bike and composed, goodness gracious, great balls of fire while going downhill over some cobblestones.
As you would.
Yes, they would, because they didn't have a suspended seat on those bikes in those days.
I bet that rattled the Swedes.
I bet it did. And they were made of the same stuff on the side of matchboxes it strike a match against as well. So you were being, no wonder he had great balls of fire.
You devil.
When he was but 21, Roland founded his own company.
Did he?
So I told you he was doing business, or was he doing origami in this company? Shall we see?
Let's find out, please.
It was a car dealership.
Ooh, where did he get his money from for this?
I don't know.
I have an idea.
Do you?
I think it came from his mum.
Why?
Because they travelled a lot, and there was a character in Pigeon Street called Long Distance Clara, so that's perhaps who his mum is, and she used her royalties to give him the money to open up a car dealership.
Oh. There's some thought gone into that, isn't there?
Absolutely. There you go. So his money has come from Long Distance Clara.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that because I can't. I've got no proof either way.
There you go.
This car dealership, which probably was a car dealership with a patisserie, because it's in France.
Free crepe with every car.
Yeah, it's in France, isn't it? It was a car dealership specialising in sports and touring cars, not far from the Arc de Triomphe, in the heart of gay Paris.
Was it gay back then, or was it?
Yes.
Not?
Oh, it was
Yeah, but
rampant.
were they allowed? Well, it's not as open as it is these days, is it? So I imagine it couldn't have been called gay Paris. It was
Oh, no,
called
in France, it's rampant.
still in the closet Paris.
No. God bless you. No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was rampant. But he wasn't there long, Neil, before his life took a brand new twist. And in August of 1909, he was invited to the Champagne region by a friend.
Well, there's a plan coming in, Steve.
Oh, there's a clang.
Yeah, I have been to the Champagne region of France. Thank you.
Clang it then.
Clang.
And what did you do in this Champagne region of France, please, Neil?
Well, actually, I was there on a rugby tour. I think was it Epinay? We went to a place called Epinay. I think it was Epinay.
I wasn't there.
I can't remember. To be honest, I can't remember what it was called. But yes, we played a few games of rugby, and we went around the Champagne caves and generally got drunk.
Champagne caves?
Yes, they have caves underneath the ground.
Did they have to mine it? I didn't realise they mined it.
Yeah,
champagne.
That's how they make it. That's how they make champagne. And they have to dig down lower down, and it all gets like all the minerals and things like that gets a bit fizzy after a while, and it comes out fizzy at the bottom. They just drip it into bottles.
Well, I never did. Did you, listener? Did? How fascinating. And while you were there, Neil, did you attend an air show, perchance?
An air show?
Yes.
No.
Because Roland did.
Did he?
Gazing up with a slack jaw at those magnificent men in their flying machines, he fell completely in love with the swooping, buzzing exhilaration of manned flight. Roland was an all-or-nothing kind of chap, and he immediately sold his Xbox and purchased a plane, and then taught himself to fly before obtaining his pilot's license.
Ooh, that's clever. Perhaps he had a game on his Xbox that could fly.
Now, as we all know, he wouldn't have injured himself or written off the plane, because back then planes only crashed by flying through the open doors of a wooden barn before emerging on the other side covered in straw and behind some panicked chickens.
Yeah, lots of chickens flying off the side of it, yeah.
Yeah. So he wouldn't have done any damage. He was quite safe.
No.
On the 6th of September 1911, just 2 years after he decided to take to the skies in the first place, Roland broke his own altitude record, reaching 3,910 metres, just under 13,000 feet, and became quite the distinguished luminary.
But back in them days, Steve, did they have measuring tools to go that height or distance, or radar to track things in the sky?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Did they?
Yep.
They did.
They had two fellas, one called Pierre, the other called Thierry. And what they had was some wooden ladders.
Yeah.
And Thierry would stand on the ground holding the ladder. Pierre would go up to the top with his tape measure. And then every time he needed a new ladder, Thierry would hand him the new ladder, which Pierre would hammer into the top of the old one. And they'd build their ladder upright with the tape measure until they were right up there at 13. Then they just shouted to Roland, 13,000 feet, mate.
When they got to about 100 metres, who came up or who went down to pick the next ladder up then, please?
Thierry was taking them up when he was climbing the ladders.
So who was holding the bottom of the ladder then?
Oh, you don't need that. It's just health and safety gone mad. They didn't have that then.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you, Roland.
Anyway, Roland became quite the luminary.
Yeah, lit the world up.
He appeared in I Am a Distinguished Luminary and Get Me Out of Here, where he finished third behind Tarzan and the Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Oh, okay.
It's a little known fact. There you go. He also took part in a series of air shows and races with hundreds of thousands of people from across Europe and South America crowding to witness his daring do.
Yeah.
What?
What is a daring do? Is that trying to do one in public without being noticed?
No, that's a daring poo.
Oh, it's the same thing, isn't it?
A daring do is a feat of bravery or bravado.
Oh, feat of bravery.
Yes. So, having done all that in just a couple of years, Neil, hello, Neil.
Hello, Stephen.
Young Roland set himself a new challenge. No one had ever flown across the Mediterranean, so he thought he'd have a pop at that.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Yeah, why not?
And so it came to pass that on the 23rd of September 1913, Roland took, he liked September, didn't he?
Yeah.
Roland took a long run up and flew his monoplane for 8 hours straight all the way from the French Riviera, which is in France,
Yeah.
to Tunisia, which is in Tunisia. Roland was carrying 200 litres of fuel and 60 litres of castor oil
All right. Was he going to have a fright when he got to the other end?
in case he needed to win favour with a bunch of terracotta potters in Tunisia who were suffering with constipation.
Ah, good idea.
Roland managed to fix 2 engine failures mid-flight and touched down in Tunisia after flying 780 kilometres or 485 miles.
485 miles?
And they know that because Pierre and Thierry were in a rowing boat beneath him with a tape measure that was stuck to the side of France. And they took it all the way out to see where he got as far as he got in Tunisia.
And they perhaps learned from not stacking ladders on top of each other to use a tape measure, which would have been a lot safer in the first place, yeah?
Don't know, but they were there. And when he landed, this is a bit of an amusing anecdote he used to use after dinners. When he landed, he only had 5 litres of fuel left in the tank.
Did
he? This little jaunt made him even more famous than what it was before he went and jaunted it. But then, Neil, what went on happened? What went and bobbed on his chips?
Was it the Great War of World War One?
World War One. Well done, Neil. Yes.
Thank you.
It only went and happened, didn't it? And dashing Roland Garros signed up immediately.
Immediately?
At the time, planes were equipped with very little weaponry. All they had was a megaphone so the pilot could shout hurtful words at the damned Fritz pilots.
Yeah.
The Fritz being your
Go away.
Germans. Yes, get away. Shoo. Shoo.
Shoo. Get away with you. Fiend.
And then the Germans, in turn, had those pointy helmets for opening tins. They dive-bombed the enemy. So while Roland had Thierry and Pierre, the German pilots, had Boris in the back there, and they'd just turn the plane upside down, he'd fall out straight through the other plane with his pointed helmet. But he wouldn't hurt himself because he'd stick in the ground. He'd just sort of go, doing, and then they'd come and get him.
Yeah, good idea, wasn't it?
Yeah. But luckily, Neil, Roland wasn't about to have any of that nonsense, so he invented the world's first single-seater fighter plane equipped with an onboard machine gun that fired through the propeller.
Well, I never did.
Well, he did. You didn't.
Wow.
No, you never did.
I never did.
No, he did. On April the 1st.
Yeah.
On April the 1st.
April the 1st. Oh, there we go. April the 1st. Your birthday.
Well, is it? Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. If the listener wants to take a little moment just to write that down, you can contact us at honourablementionspod@gmail.com, or we're on Discord these days, or you can get us on Spotify or anything like that, just in case you wanted to, no particular reason. Anyway, back to the story. On April the 1st,
Your birthday, Stephen.
1915, Roland shot not my birthday, it's not April the 1st, 1915. On April the 1st, in 1915, Roland shocked the entire German nation by flying directly at one of their observation planes and blasting it out of the air through his own propeller.
Wow.
Vive la France.
Vive la France.
By April the 18th, the entire French Air Force had managed to down a total of 5 German planes, and Roland accounted for 3 of them.
Wow.
Never before had a lone pilot hunted other men through the air.
Could have been a mischievous superhero back then, flying around. Oh, look at these men. Super, super, super.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Is that your superhero impression?
That's what he says. That was his speech, yeah. Super, super, super.
That's very good.
Thank you.
And what's the name of this superhero?
He was called Fiddler.
The Fiddler. Just a fiddler for the purposes of being able to stay on air.
Yeah, yeah.
Roland Garros, who was none of those things,
right?
Of course, had become one of the world's very first fighter aces.
Oh, fighter ace.
But oh no, Neil.
What? What happened, please?
Oh no.
What?
On that very day, what I just said, April the 18th,
Yes.
Roland was hit by pesky German anti-aircraft defences somewhere over Belgium.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
Well, that was a good shot, wasn't it?
Forced to land, he was taken prisoner.
Was he? Yeah,
and in Belgium, too, of all places. Well, this is the thing, because he was very upset to find that he'd been taken captive in Belgium, but then he realised about the chocolate and the fact
and the waffles.
And the waffles, and it wasn't Northampton, whereas it could have been. Could have been a lot worse.
Can you imagine that? Landing in Northampton, he just ended up with Chicken George or something, or bloody, I don't know.
People with 6 fingers running about. The thing is, Neil.
Go on.
Roland was forced to land and taken prisoner, as we've said. And all this was before he had a chance to destroy his plane.
Oh, no.
And do you know what?
What? I've got a feeling.
Well, rather than give it back, which would have been a gentlemanly thing to do.
It would have been a nice thing to do, yes. I think this is yours, gentlemen.
Those slippery, underhand Germans stole gallant and brave Roland's brilliantly technical, savage and brutally murderous invention.
Yeah.
And copied it like it was their own homework, without so much as a buy nor leave.
That's not a bad thing, because we've all copied someone else's homework, surely.
Have we?
Well, I did.
Oh, I hope Mum's not listening to this. She'll be grabbing you by the top of your ear and making you do your homework again. And do you know what Roland and his little engineering team had done? On the back of each wooden propeller blade, right where the line of fire crossed the propeller's arc, Roland had his engineers bolt steel triangles which deflected the bullets he was firing. When he pulled the trigger via a mechanical wire loop from the cockpit, the gun fired at his normal rate. Statistically, about 93% of the bullets flew cleanly between the spinning blades. The remaining 7% of them smashed directly into the back of the propeller and were deflected away by the plates, the surfaces of which featured metal grooves designed to catch a bullet and sling it outwards instead of just batting it back at the pilot. Now, those German cheats, they only went and handed Roland's modified propeller and standard machine gun over to a Dutch engineer who said there was a better way of doing this. And that Dutch engineer's name was Anthony Fokker. Anthony Fokker of the famous Fokker airplanes. Fokker used the inspiration to create the synchronizer gear. A mechanical linkage actually paused the machine gun's firing pin the exact millisecond a propeller blade passed in front of the barrel. He was a really big bollocks, weren't he? He was a show-off. But where's his tennis stadium? Eh? Anyway, it only took Roland 3 years to escape from that heavily fortified prisoner of war camp they stuck him in. So stick that up, you bratwurst. He didn't dig a tunnel. He didn't scale a wall in the dead of night or in the daytime. And he definitely didn't jump a motorbike over a fence. He just marched right out the front gate. With a fellow French pilot called Anselme Marchal, over many months, they smuggled and secretly altered bits of clothing to piece together convincing German military uniforms and went for the tried and tested fake moustache routine to match the styling of the camp's guards and officers. All in all, this was a much better plan than their previous idea of disguising themselves as a travelling mariachi band, especially as Anselme spoke fluent German. So, on the evening of February the 14th, 1918, in dim light and dressed in their makeshift uniforms, complete with fake moustaches, Anselme and Roland walked out into the camp courtyard as the guards were changing their shifts. When they reached the checkpoint gates, Anselme gave the guards a mouthful because he was French and couldn't help himself. The guards, intimidated by what they assumed were superior officers, saluted and opened the gates, allowing the two Frenchmen to walk right out into the night, the little tinkers. The duo decided to travel at night and hide during the day to avoid search parties. They made a treacherous journey of many days northwest towards the neutral Netherlands. From there, they were given passage on a boat bound for London. If Netherlands was neutral, what was Anthony Fokker playing at? Siding with the juries. Here, you start to lose a bit of sympathy for our gallant heroes because they arrived in London and then they left London with a smug and jelly deals and music halls and pearly kings and queens and went all the way back to France. Why? Why would anybody do that? Roland's health had seriously deteriorated during his captivity. He had become severely short-sighted and had to make himself pairs of glasses in secret. So there was Roland Garros, severely short-sighted. So what's the first thing he does when he gets back to France? He goes back to flying life-threatening missions in a plane made of crepe paper and old lolly sticks. Although he won one more of his duels, Roland Garros was shot down and killed on the 5th of October 1918 over the Ardennes region of France. That's just over a month before the end of the war. So if it had gone on another few weeks, he'd have survived the whole ballet shooting match. But no, he didn't. Or if he'd have stayed in London, not a sensible person, he'd have been safe. But there he was anyway, a First World War hero, an inventor and a trailblazer of aviation. Then 10 years after his death in 1928, the 1928 was 10 years after, because he died in 1918. Let's not get confused here. A tennis stadium that had been built for France to defend their Davis Cup title was named after Roland Garros at the request of Émile Lesure. He was president of the Stade Français and a friend of Roland, and Roland had supported Lesure's campaign to become the chair and president. So Roland Garros may not have been linked with the tennis world, but very few sports stadiums anywhere carry the name of a person whose courage, cunning, skill and fervour accurately reflects the attributes of anyone who hopes to reign supreme within its walls. Napoleon said, "Victory belongs to the most persevering." And Roland liked that and had it inscribed onto all of his plane's propellers, right up until he was shot down because he couldn't see further than his joystick. So victory didn't belong to the most persevering, did it? Because both Napoleon and Roland Garros came like a couple of croppers. But that is the fascinating story of Roland Garros, for whom the National French Tennis Stadium and the French Open Tennis Stadium is named after. Well, listener, what did you think to that little episode? If there was anything you'd like to ask us about tennis, we are quite experts. Thank you, listener. Do be sure to look us up on all your social medias. And most importantly of all, please subscribe. If you've got any suggestions of a subject we should cover, or anyone in your family you think would be a decent subject for us to cover, or anything like that, or if you just want to send a message to say you pair of utter pillocks, just stop, then anything like that would be very much appreciated. And most importantly of all, remember, subscribe to the podcast, which really, really, really does help us find new listeners. And if you can share as well, then do that. Share, whether it be one of our posts on social media, or whether it be just share the podcast with your friends, whatever. Well, thank you, listener. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you learned something new about, not just about Roland Garros, but about tennis and about the absolute vacuum that is Nim's brain. So we will see you again next week. Bye.
Bonjour, mon ami. It is I, Roland Garros. I am here to thank you for listening to Honorable Mentions, Hilarious History, all about me. How about that? How much did you know about my dashing adventures and complete lack of tennis? This whole episode was researched by my good friend Stephen Webb, and it was an Uncover Brothers production. If you could support the podcast by sharing and subscribing to make sure you do not miss a future episode. J'essaierai reconnaissante. Merci. Now, when I was flying the loop-to-loop and shooting down our German POW, I always wore my Sony Walkman listening to the greatest hits of Pepe and the Bandits, and it is they who wrote and performed the theme tune to Honorable Mentions. So please go and listen to them wherever you stream your music. Until next time, ma petite tortue sexuelle, au revoir. Oh, before I leave you, I must apologize for the complete loss of Neil during that podcast episode. If anyone has a rudimentary grasp of basic IT, please do get in contact with him, but you will need some crayons and a lot of patience. Bonne chance, mon ami.